Anyway, should we talk about Star Trek?
Yeah, okay. But I don't, whatever. As you know, this is a measurement episode where it is our continuing mission to explore what makes Star Trek proper Star Trek. And not just if you know, you know. I'm Jonathan.
Oh, is that a television program?
No, that's like kind of what the whole episode was. It was like, if you know, you know.
Oh. And I'm Paul, and the criteria by which we judge these episodes. Number 1, is there science fiction explored in the plot? Very important. Number 2, is that science fiction unique or novel in some way? And number 3, is there a moral or ethical dilemma? That's always the hard one. It's the tough one.
Especially for lower decks. I feel like that's what we keep running into.
Right. And I'm Paul.
And I'm Jonathan. So let's see what we're watching next. This week we watched the latest episode of Lower Decks, season 3, episode 3, Mining the Mind's Minds. And the blurb says, on a remote science outpost, stone orbs are bringing fantasies to life. Tendi starts her first day as a senior science officer trainee.
So I have to ask, what did you think of this episode?
Sorry, hang on. I got freeze-dried strawberry in my mouth.
Are you eating during the podcast?
Not intentionally. I've got a baby right next to me, and she was like, here, eat this. So what I liked about this episode was if you didn't know, you weren't lost. But so much of this episode was calls from one thing was from the animated series, one was from a deleted scene from a movie. So like there were these deep cuts in the episode. And overall, this was a very meh episode for me. It felt filler. I didn't feel like there were lots of like really solid jokes in it. And aside from what the twist was, I knew that there was going to be something that came up at the end, and I was just kind of waiting for it.
Well, the scientist looked like this terrible, like he looked like a bad guy. He
right.
Looked like a villain, the one who was working with the silicate monsters.
Yeah.
Who looks like a character. He looks like one of the rock character from Thor.
Oh, sure. Korg. Yeah.
Korg. Yeah. Anyway, so I'm having this feeling now when I watch the show where I'm getting anxiety. I'm getting Lower Decks anxiety because I know it's going to be chock full of references and references that I'm probably eligible to get, meaning I'm not a super fan.
Right.
But I've seen enough of Star Trek where I should be able to get it. And so now I'm like scanning every single frame of the show as it pops up, looking for things. I was like, oh, could that possibly be this from that episode? I don't know. And then I start creating little stories around something that's on a desk, this innocuous thing on a desk. And I don't know how to handle that. Like, I feel like I'm not qualified to watch the show because this show is predicated on you have to be a Star Trek fan really to get a lot out of this. Because as you said, listen to all the deep cuts you just told us about that I missed entirely.
Right. But I feel like if you went into this episode knowing nothing about Star Trek, you wouldn't be lost. You know, like I think there was one scene with that giant like flying snake where the person called it out for what it was. I think like there you might be like, oh, that's probably something that's from another episode of Star Trek. But beyond that, like I don't think there was anything in this episode where you know, you would just feel lost and be like, why did they do that? What is that from? Like, what are they referencing?
Yeah, I mean, the plot made sense mathematically, but it's not a good show without the references. It's not worth watching, I don't think.
Interesting.
Especially this particular episode. I mean, nothing really happened in this episode.
Right.
Even the B plot with Tendi was like nothing. I don't even understand what was going on and what she was expecting to happen. Like, they didn't give us enough information. She signed up for something to become a senior science officer.
Right.
She's supposed to be assigned a mentor, someone who she doesn't know who it is. It ends up being somebody, I know this character is recurring, but I didn't know who he was.
Right.
Someone who is apparently unqualified and not really up for the job. She abandons that person, goes into a meeting, like a diplomatic meeting with the captains of the ships, abandons that after a certain point, and then goes back working for her regular job. Like, it was weird, right? Like, nothing happened. Like, in terms of her being escalated in rank, I feel like that was kind of left hanging. I mean, there is an arc for her in that she realized who her mentor really was. And that's the thing that we were complaining about last week, which is this is a show of arc, not of plot.
Right. Well, yeah, like you're right in that her plot was very I don't want to say well, yeah, it was disjointed. Like, I don't think there was enough time spent on her actions to explain why she was doing what she was doing.
And we didn't have enough information about why what she was doing was stacking up against what we were expecting to happen.
Right.
I didn't know it was supposed to happen. And so the fact that whatever wasn't happening, I didn't know about. But she was reacting to something that wasn't happening that we didn't know about.
Right. I mean, she did kind of say like she wanted to take a test. She didn't want to just be observed.
Be observed doing what though? Like she said that she was studying
Right.
really hard and trying to prepare for this moment. This is a very important moment. She's like, but I'd really like to take a test. And I was thinking, is there a test? Is the mentor not giving her the test she's supposed to get, or was there ever a test?
Right.
Is this all part of it? You know?
Yeah. Well, and it seemed like ultimately there wasn't a test. And she was just expecting one, so she was kind of blindsided that there wasn't one. But not that it needs to be spelled out in plain English, because we don't like that either. But it felt like the dialogue was too fast and too sharp for there to be like that kind of major plot point presented to the audience in a way that they're going to like know what was going on.
Yeah, I just didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
I didn't know what was going on.
Right.
So, but I think that plot line was definitely not inferior, but secondary to the main plot, also known as a B plot. I don't know why I'm trying to make up new words for.
Oh, you're talking about the plot that's secondary to the main plot is the B plot.
Yeah, this was kind of two B plots, to be quite honest to me. So they go in and, well, hang on, let me back up a little bit. So Ransom, I want to talk about Ransom for a second.
Okay.
Ransom is a very interesting Star Trek character because, so normally when you have a ship or a group of people, a crew of people on Star Trek, they're all pretty good people.
Right.
Everybody kind of has something nice or beneficial to the group as a whole. But Ransom is different because, and this might just be because it's an animation, but in terms of looking at it as a Star Trek episode, Ransom is kind of an unlikable character who sometimes does good things. Whereas in normal Star Trek, you have good characters who sometimes do selfish or bad things or destructive things, i.e. Geordi.
Right. Which we should get back to in a
beat
second.
up on Geordi, right? Yeah, Geordi's going to show up again. Just stay tuned. So I thought that was interesting that they have him because he's kind of like Dr. Cox from Scrubs.
Yes.
But I really liked Dr. Cox. That's the problem. Like, I think that Ransom is engineered to be not likable or to be against Mariner and against sort of the lower decks crew, right?
Right. Well, and that's the biggest difference between Ransom and Dr. Cox is that Dr. Cox wanted you to do your job well and was there to defend them learning as they went. And Ransom is just kind of, he doesn't like the lower decks and doesn't see the point of them.
Right. But he's in every single episode. I just find that interesting. That
Right.
doesn't really happen in Star Trek. And that could just be what happens when you merge animation and Star Trek.
Well, yeah, like again, being 30 minutes, being rapid fire dialogue and jokes, like there's probably, well, not there probably, there's not going to be as much depth to the characters as there can be in 60 minutes and slower dialogue.
Yeah. But I have to say, good thing that we've seen all those next gen episodes.
Right?
Because I did get the reference of Leah Brahms.
Yeah.
Brahm?
Yeah.
Brahms.
Leah Brahms, yep. And
Brahms.
based on the holodeck and the fantasy version of Brahms, she has a type.
I guess that's true. Computer people? People with stuff. Oh, people with stuff on their eyes.
Yes,
Right.
people of color with stuff on their eyes.
Oh, right. Yes.
Yeah.
Right. I don't see color. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Um,
But I think from what I can tell, I did not do any work on this, but because the actress who was credited as playing Leah Brahms was a special appearance by, I'm guessing that's the same person.
yes, it was. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That would be weird just if you had just a day player to say 3 or 4 lines and special appearance. By.
Right.
It's like, oh, thank you.
Well, it'd be funny if they did special appearance like they did it in the first episode with a special appearance by Tuvok and Captain whatever. Like they don't say the actors' names because they didn't do it.
That's a good point. I do wonder, were there cut scenes that we missed?
I know.
I want to know about that. We'll never know, but we'll never know.
Uh,
One thing I really liked about this episode was all of the Star Trek themed nightmare imagery. They just kind of took things and made them scary. Star Trek stuff, like they put the Borg on a snake, on a Beetlejuice snake, and that's like nightmare stuff.
Right.
And that was funny.
What would have been neat? I just thought of this, like the Klingon clowns. If the clowns were like that, they were from that Voyager episode with Michael McKean.
Oh yeah! Wow. Yeah. Okay. Where he was the Joker.
Yeah.
The Joker.
Yeah. He had that blue face, and at the end, he's like, "I'm scared." She's like, "Good."
Get used to it. So I have a question for you.
Okay.
So somebody says the line, well, I want to grow old and grow orchids together. And that kind of tickled my brain a little bit that it might be a reference, but I don't remember what it would be a reference to. Is orchids a thing in any of the Star Trek lore?
Not to my knowledge, but
see, this is why I can't watch the show anymore, because every single thing that they say and that every single thing that we see is a reference to me. Like, this might be a reference. I'm Googling, like I'm pausing every 13 seconds to Google if something is a reference. It takes me 2.5 hours to watch a 22-minute episode. So no is the question.
Only so far as orchids are kind of the alien flower of choice for Star Trek.
Okay, so not a reference. Damn it.
Stupid deep cut. Like a post from 7 years ago on the website Orchid Board. It says Star Trek plus orchids equals ? And it says, I'm always so interested looking at the alien plants on Star Trek because many times they do use orchids.
Did anybody respond to that?
Yes, there are 4 people who responded to it.
I'm moving into the archived section.
Bump,
Yeah.
and this has been archived.
We should reply. To it. Okay, so not a reference is what you're saying.
Not to my knowledge, no. And based on the few things that I watched before we started talking, I did not see anything about it. It was referenced in Picard. So maybe, just the recency of that, they're doing that as kind of a callback. But
were there like protect ships orchids?
Yeah.
That's not the same thing.
No.
Like the whole idea of growing old and growing orchids together, that just seemed so specific to me.
Right.
That it must be a reference, but it must not be. We're spending too much time on it.
Unnecessary time. Right.
Because I picked something from the episode that sounded like a reference. Probably the only thing that wasn't actually a reference to choose to talk about.
Yeah, right?
I could have chosen anything else that actually was a reference. Okay, so here's something that I thought was going to happen. So everything goes awry when they crack open the mines, the whatever they call them, the green balls.
Yeah, the green balls.
Right?
Yep.
And nightmares start taking place, and the 2 crews go into the cave to hide. And I thought, because when it's revealed that the other crew, the Carlsbad, the crew from the Carlsbad start sort of gushing praise all over the Cerritos crew. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. That's kind of a twist because they were so combative earlier. But then I was like, no, this is the nightmare. Something's going to happen. I was totally expecting that both crews were hiding somewhere and having the same experience where, for the actual Carlsbad crew, the Cerritos crew was kind of whatever their nightmare was going to be and vice versa. But that didn't happen.
No, it didn't.
It was like totally literal what was happening. Because it was so strange that they would flip like that to me.
Well, although that does kind of seem to be the MO of this season. That happened with Mariner in the first episode. Like, she's being so angry and aggressive, and then it just turns out that she's scared. I'm sure there was something in the last episode where there was a flip.
That's why people come to this podcast.
Right? Because of all of our references.
Concrete trivia.
Encyclopedic knowledge.
I'm sure there was something in the other episode where that happened. I think what we should definitely tell people to do, if you like the show, go on to Apple Podcasts and rate it, because that is the number one place where all of the algorithmic magic happens, where it will get, and I think Spotify, it's Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So if you like the show, you think you want to hear more, please go and comment on those particular platforms, because those are where they actually matter in terms of getting the podcast to more people. And that's what we want. We're trying to grow. We want to open a new facility in Montana, and we can't do that without at least 20 subscribers.
Right. Yeah, we put up a post about this about 4 years ago, and then there's been 3 posts ever since of just bump. So
yeah, right. So please, if you like the show, take the 30 seconds or so. It doesn't have to be polite, just has to be 5 stars. In fact, even if you hate the show, please give us 5. You can say whatever you want in the comment area, but please 5 stars. 5 stars is very important.
Well, that, and also not even 30 seconds. Just by the time it takes you to write "you suck" with the letter U instead of YOU, we're looking at 8 seconds tops. So,
well, and that depends on how savvy you are with switching between keyboards on your phone, right? If you want to have an emoticon in there, some people are really fast with it.
Emoticon? How old are you?
Oh, emoji, right. Sometimes I still use emoticons. Do you not use emoticons anymore?
There's one that I use that has not been copied into emoji, and that's parentheses, period, underscore, parentheses. Or sorry, dang it. Parentheses, period, underscore, period, space, parentheses. And it looks like just kind of a sorry face, kind of looking just off to the side. And
I thought it was the nipple ring emoticon.
No, that's parentheses, at symbol, parentheses.
All right. Oh, that's the Janet Jackson nipple ring
right.
emoticon.
Yeah. No, but we're now up to over 130 episodes. And each one is roughly 30 minutes. So that's 65 hours worth of content. And we're just saying, if you have listened to more than one, we're asking for 8 to 10 seconds of your time, just to throw that up there, and let people know what you think of it and get that algorithm going. Would mean the
or just
world to
one.
us.
Why do you why you can listen to one and be like, this is so good, I don't even have to listen to another one, and go comment. I say those are the real heroes.
The ones who do it after one.
After just one.
Yeah.
I think you're truly the hero if you don't listen to any after that.
Those are just gods among mortals.
But we like to say to our small but loyal few who are listening, thank you very much. Please
Chet
keep
Mike.
listening. There's more to come.
And Jeremy.
Yeah. Those 3 people. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So the one thing I can still see in this wow.
Yeah.
I can still see in this show.
Hang on.
Yeah. Even though on these types of episodes where they do feel kind of like pocket episodes in that they don't seem to reach out into the universe that much, the Star Trek universe that much, in terms of a forwarding plot line, that kind of thing. The idea that when Next Gen would encounter some sort of new alien, they would usually spend some time exposing what is interesting about this alien. And I think they just didn't do that in this episode. And I kind of missed that. I kind of missed even if it's just one scene of we live in the sand and we don't use carbon as our, that's interesting and not something that is usually seen on Star Trek, that kind of thing. So I kind of missed it. I missed them expounding on this new life form. And again, this might be the miscommunication between me and an animation.
Yeah, no. I think it's less about between you and the animation and more 60 minutes versus 30 minutes. They established where they were and then the episode got started. There wasn't any investigation or background to the aliens there.
Right. I can see that. I could have used less of the hijinks with the nightmare imagery and taken a little bit from that and give me a little bit more science fiction with the life forms.
Right.
But, that's okay. We'll let it go. I did find it interesting that the humans who had been turned into rock, basically,
Mm-hmm.
were resuscitated somehow.
Yes, somehow.
I was super surprised. I thought the guy, like the bald guy with the mustache who
That
was
lost his
buddying
arms?
up to Ransom. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought he was just a red shirt, dead.
Right. Just dead. Yep. Yeah. Well, did they show the guy from the beginning, from the cold open?
I didn't see him.
Yeah.
If they did. I think he was crumbled though. He was done, I thought.
Oh, I thought he just fell. Like we saw the stone and then he fell. I didn't think that he fell apart.
I don't remember.
But yeah, I mean, regardless, you don't remember seeing him at the end, whether or not he was broken
Right.
apart or not.
Maybe he was too far gone.
Right. Well, yeah, and that's the other part of it too. Like, kind of what you just said. They fixed him somehow. Like, how?
How?
Right. Yeah,
And you've been converted entirely to sand.
and I think that's the sci-fi element that was missing from this episode. It also wasn't the focus of the story. It wasn't like how do we get him back to normal. But there was no throwaway line about reversing the polarities or anything. So,
And there wasn't really any urgency around it. It wasn't as though these people, if we can't get them out of this state within 24 hours, they're lost forever. Like
Right.
It wasn't a ticking clock in that way.
yeah.
And I think there wasn't really a lot of science fiction in the story.
No, there really wasn't. There was no sci-fi explanation for the orbs doing what they did. Actually, I guess there was if they weren't indigenous to the planet and they were actually built to read people's memories.
And they kind of brushed over what the silicate life forms were getting out of this deal with this rogue scientist.
They even made a joke about it, and they got rocks.
Yeah, they got more rocks. I don't see how that. And she just kind of stepped on it and then left, right? She kind of moved on. And so it was kind of a very janky plot line for me at the end where they kind of just tied it up. That's what we've been talking about. This is not a plot-oriented show.
Right. Although it is a slow build show, kind of like, what they did with the Pockleds in both previous seasons. And I think that this kind of plays into the other episode that we watched, Wage Douche, I think is what it was called, where we found out that the Klingons were providing the technology to the Pockleds. And so that's basically what was happening here. So I think that it was dismissed now to come back in a major way later this season.
Okay, well, here we go. But I think we're both agreed that it is kind of a lackluster episode.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's animation and I like it for the jokes. So I enjoy it and I had a good time. So I would say, like, yes, it was a good episode, but it wasn't proper Star Trek.
Right. Yeah. Actually, I felt the most like a original series episode. In terms of humans being converted into sand and cloud monsters or any kind of monsters, that kind of thing, where it's very psychological.
Right.
There's a lot of stuff that's just sort of fantasy-esque, kind of dream state types of stuff that just didn't really happen that often in the latter, Next Generation and on. That just didn't happen.
But yeah, like even just the cold open where it's some guy we don't know suddenly has a fantasy in front of him, which, by the way, didn't change into a nightmare. So the dream turned him to stone as well, which I thought was interesting.
Well, I think that the idea was that the green balls breaking was not really part of the plan for the whatever the conspiracy that was happening.
Okay, so the general worry was that these spheres, these orbs, were turning people to stone by getting them to be interested because of their dreams.
Yeah, there seemed to be malice by it. Okay. And they didn't explain that either. Why is there malice by these orbs?
Right.
Is the conspiracy with the silicate life forms and the crazy weird looking Lovitz adjacent villain scientist guy?
Lovitz?
Yeah. What's that actor's name?
John Lovitz?
John Lovitz, yeah. He looked a little bit like John Lovitz, like circa 1995.
Okay. I was trying to remember where like John Lovitz had played an alien, but you're saying just this alien looked like John Lovitz.
No, if it was, I would have mentioned the character name.
Yeah, I'm sure you would have because you always know the characters' names.
Yeah, that's what I would have done. That didn't even seem connected. That whole conspiracy was connected to actually what happened in the plot.
Right.
They just kind of stumbled on to the conspiracy because of because of the hijinks, basically.
Yeah. I think that they're kind of trying to have that be the lower decks. I guess motif is that, you know, the lower decks are not part of the main plot, and either what they do is completely irrelevant, like in episode 1, or like in episode 2 and 3, like they stumble upon, or they get thrown into whatever the main plot is.
Right. Hijinks.
Yep, through hijinks. Yeah.
Go hijinks.
Yeah. Hilarity ensues.
Yeah. I'm kind of waiting for, though. I'm waiting for some exceptionalism. And maybe that's the wrong thing to be waiting for in a show called Lower Decks, where the motif is that they are always slaves to their own ineptness.
Right. There's a reason they're not senior officers. Yeah.
Right. But I'm waiting for some kind of, I don't know, something interesting to happen to one of them, where it isn't just a character-based event, where, you know, something that sets these people apart from just truly inept idiots.
Right. And not just being related to the captain.
Yeah. Boimler has a vineyard.
Right. That's something.
Is that something? I don't know. It seems like I want to know more. And is he working on Picard's vineyard, or is that another vineyard?
Well, I like the idea of it being a competition, like not a competition, like it is their rival.
Right. They're in competition.
Yeah.
Probably not, though.
No. Yeah. It was more of just a wink to the audience, where if you know, you know.
So not a Star Trek episode.
Right. Yeah.
Well, we should say not a proper Star Trek episode.
Right. Yeah. I mean, really,
I thought it was okay.
Yeah, definitely enjoyable. Was there even a moral or ethical dilemma? Oh, I guess the mentor thing, like if she should stick with the mentor that she had, even though he wasn't doing a great job. But
that's not really it's a dilemma. It's not an ethical dilemma.
Well, right? It kind of is. You know, if you're assigned a mentor, you know, and he's not doing a good job, like how do you broach that subject both with the mentor and, you know, with the organization that you're supposed to be working with?
Yeah, I feel like that whole sequence was just meant to be funny and goofy. I don't even think it really served any purpose to help her. I think it was just, he's an idiot, and that's what I'm stuck with. That's the whole joke. And
yeah, I mean, it was very much this was something, if you know, you know, and you would only know from watching the previous episodes, that he is kind of conceited and
a bird.
Wait, what?
He's not even a race that has evolved from birds. He's a bird.
Right.
That can talk.
Yeah. He is a human-sized bird.
Are there any human-sized? There aren't. Not anymore. There were pterodactyls. Pterodactyls, meaning wings of the earth.
Kind of ostriches. You know, they're...
I guess that's true.
Yeah, their human height. They.
That's true. No, that works.
All right.
Imagine an ostrich sitting down with you to lunch.
Terrifying. Which one? Also, lemur. An emu as well.
Emu. Yeah. Lemur, emu.
Well, I was doing Washington Mutual, and I was trying to figure out how the bird's name was Lemur. Off of
Limu Wamu.
Yeah.
I like the idea that they were working on something similar at WAMU, and they see the commercial on there and they snap a pencil.
Right. Yeah, just take the whiteboard eraser.
By the way, pterodactyl does not mean wings of the earth. I made that up.
I didn't even hear you say that. Yeah, no, it doesn't, because terra, the Latin for earth, doesn't start with a P.
Well, it means small. Picoterra, meaning small earth. And small meaning of the long, long ago.
Is that what small? Is that the origin for small?
Yes, meaning a long time ago.
It's just over time the definition has changed to...
We don't have time for me to teach you Latin. Pterodactyl. You don't even hear it in the word. It's obviously just a misspelling. Someone was typing and they hit the P and they're like, well, it looks cool. We'll keep it.
It looks cool.
I've never seen that word before.
P is in pterodactyl. No, you got to pick a different word. Okay, P is in pneumonia. No, try again.
Is there another? You got a third one? Got a third
P is in psychosis.
Nice.
Well,
Well, I still am excited to see the next episode.
I am too.
I enjoy watching it.
Yeah, it is. I like. It's this weird, dichotomy where it's Star Trek, but it's not proper Star Trek. Like you go in and you, for you go in with anxiety, but for me, I go in with like curiosity of like what are they going to reference that either hasn't been referenced before or is such a trope, kind of what she was talking about with the comm badge.
I wonder if it's sort of like when you play Boggle, how you can't possibly get all the words, especially on the app. When we played Boggle together, did you ever go into like all the words that you could have possibly done?
Oh my gosh, no. No, I didn't know that was a thing. Yikes.
Yeah. There's like hundreds of words
right.
that you're just not getting. Even if you got like 50, 60, 70 words, which is like pro.
Yeah, I mean, that's
you didn't get.
Borderline savant because you only, well, I guess you got 2 minutes, right? 2 minutes, 3 minutes?
And you get a free, like you can freeze it. So you get like 15 seconds extra. So
that's right.
If you're really speedy, you can do it. But same thing here. Is there so many references and they just kind of infinitely go cutting deeper and deeper that no one actually gets all of the references, right?
Well, yeah. And also like, is that, is that item on the desk actually a reference? Or are you reading too much into it?
Well, I'm definitely reading too much into it all the time.
Well, clearly with the orchids. Yeah.
That's my psychosis.
All right. Well, we are watching episode 4 next of season 3 of Lower Decks of the Star Trek franchise. I've been Jonathan.
And I've been Paul.
And this has been The Measure of an Episode.
But you already knew that. I think we should leave that for people to figure out for themselves.
Hey, let's start doing that. Let's not tell people who it was.
Okay, we'll do that.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing. So who was that, everybody?